Hey there. Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going deep on something that hits home for, well, everyone, really. Neurocognitive disorders. I'm really curious to unpack this book. We've got Neurocognitive Disorders Demystified. It's seriously insightful. I'm kind of hooked on what it says about the everyday brain stuff that we never think about, until it goes a bit sideways.
Totally. It's like we never think about how well our brains work until we lose our keys for the 100th time or forget someone's name, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, how would you explain neurocognitive disorders to someone like me, someone who's fascinated by the brain but doesn't have a neuroscience degree?
Think of it this way. Our brains are these crazy, powerful machines, always processing, remembering, making sense of everything. But like any machine, things can go wrong. Neurocognitive disorders are basically glitches in those processes. The way we think, remember, learn, even how we act, it's all affected.
Wow, okay. So it's not just memory then, huh? It's like the whole shebang of how our brains work. The book mentions something called executive dysfunction. Sounds pretty intense.
It can be. Executive function, it's like imagine your brain's management team, right? The control center, making plans, organizing, getting things done. When that's dysfunctional, it's like the CEO's gone AWOL and no one knows what to do.
Yeah.
Things you used to do without thinking, making a grocery list, focusing on a task, suddenly they're super difficult.
So it's not just forgetting your keys. It's that even trying to retrace your steps and figure it out feels impossible.
Exactly. You might start a project, then boom, distracted. Or you can't make simple decisions. Like your brain's filter for what's important is gone. Everything feels urgent.
Wow, okay, I get it now. I can see how frustrating that would be. So what causes these disruptions in the first place? This book, it talks about a whole bunch of factors, right?
Yeah, it's multifaceted for sure. There are diseases like Alzheimer's where over time the brain loses its structure and function. And then there are traumatic brain injuries, way more common than people realize. Even what seems like a minor fall can have lasting effects on how your brain works. And then, of course, there's lifestyle choices, and they play a huge role.
It really makes you think about how we treat our brains, doesn't it? We're so focused on physical health, but we often forget about the incredible organ that's running the show.
That's so true. Our everyday choices, from what we eat and how much we move to our sleep and stress levels, they all have a massive impact on our brains in the long run. But the amazing thing is, the brain can actually adapt and change.
Hold on, wait, what? How?
It's called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, okay, you gotta explain that. Sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
It kind of is when you think about it. Neuroplasticity basically means our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on what we do, what we experience. Like a muscle, you challenge it, it gets stronger.
So you're saying even if we haven't been treating our brains like temples, there's still hope. That's actually really reassuring. But let's, before we get ahead of ourselves, what are some of those early signs of decline? I think we all have those senior moments, but when should we actually be concerned?
You've hit on something really important. We joke about being forgetful, but it's crucial to know when those little memory blips are happening more often or actually getting in the way of our lives. Forgetting conversations, appointments, even while you walked into a room, those are red flags.
Okay, that's making me a little anxious, not gonna lie. But hey, knowledge is power, right? If we can catch these things early on, what can we do? What does the book suggest?
Well, it really stresses how much of a difference early intervention can make. With something like Alzheimer's, getting that early diagnosis is huge for managing symptoms and maybe even slowing down how fast it progresses.
So what can we actually do? Are we talking brain training apps, crossword puzzles, all that jazz? Those always make me feel like I'm back in school, but hey, if it works.
It definitely can't hurt. Those mentally stimulating activities, they're like cross-training for your brain. And it's not all about memory either. Anything that challenges your problem solving, your creativity, even just interacting with people, it all helps build a more resilient brain.
So it's like a holistic brain workout routine. I like it. What about food? There's so much conflicting info out there about what's actually good for brain health.
Oh, there's a ton of noise, that's for sure. But in general, a Mediterranean-style diet seems to be the way to go. Good for the brain, good for the heart. Lots of fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean protein, healthy fats, think olive oil, fatty fish, that kind of thing.
Okay, I can get behind that. Sounds pretty delicious and doable. What else is in the book? What about sleep?
We can't forget about sleep.
Ah, sleep. The thing we never seem to get enough of. But seriously, how does sleep affect our cognitive health?
It's not just about feeling rested, although that obviously helps with how well your brain works. When we sleep, our brains are busy consolidating memories, clearing out toxins, getting ready for the next day. Think of it as your brain's nightly maintenance routine. Skimp on sleep, And those processes, they don't happen like they should.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm starting to see how interconnected all these lifestyle factors are. Diet, exercise, sleep. What about stress? I feel like modern life is practically a masterclass in stress.
You're telling me chronic stress is really bad for our brains. It's like having your emergency brake on all the time. It wears you down and makes you more prone to all sorts of health problems, including problems with your cognitive function. Finding ways to manage stress is key, whether it's mindfulness, being in nature, or just doing things you enjoy.
Makes sense. It's about finding that balance right. Challenge your brain, but also give it time to chill out and recharge.
Exactly. It's a holistic thing, and it shows how connected our brains and bodies really are.
It's like taking care of your mental health is brain training in itself. This is so interesting. But this book, it doesn't just give us a to-do list. It also talks about specific neurocognitive disorders. I thought the part on Alzheimer's was really powerful.
It's a complicated disease that a lot of people misunderstand. What resonated with you?
It's more than just memory loss, you know? The book talked about how Alzheimer's affects your personality, behavior, even your ability to do simple everyday tasks. It really puts a human face on the disease, and I think it shows just how important early diagnosis and intervention are.
For sure. One thing people don't always realize about Alzheimer's is how it can affect your vision. Having trouble judging distances, seeing contrast, even recognizing familiar faces, those can be early signs.
Wow, I had no idea about the vision part. That's incredible. We've covered so much ground already, from defining these disorders and recognizing the early signs to talking about how to support our cognitive health.
And we're just getting started. This is a field with so much research happening, so many questions we still don't have answers to.
Which is kind of exciting, you know? It means there's always more to learn and discover. But I'm curious, after diving deep into this, what's really stuck with you?
It really makes you think about how incredible the brain is, right? That it can do all that A&D, still find ways to adapt.
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
So what's got me thinking is, if we want to be proactive, if we want to protect our brain health as we age, where do we even begin?
Well, the book talks about this idea of building up what they call cognitive reserve, basically giving your brain more resilience, more backup systems, so it can handle those bumps in the road.
Okay, cognitive reserve. I like it. How do we actually do that? Give me the secrets.
Think of it like this. Everything that's good for your body is good for your brain, too. Regular exercise, a balanced diet, enough sleep. These are all crucial for building that reserve.
So it's not just about those brain games and puzzles then. Although I do love a good Sudoku.
Those are great, too. Anything that challenges your brain, makes it work in new ways, helps strengthen those connections. Think of it like cross-training for your mind.
Cross-training for your mind. I'm going to steal that. Okay, so we've got the basics covered. What about something more specific? What about diet? I've heard so many things about what foods are good for your brain. What's the verdict?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise out there, but there is some pretty solid evidence that a Mediterranean-style diet is beneficial for brain health. You know, lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, those healthy fats you find in olive oil, nuts, fish.
Okay, that actually sounds pretty delicious.
Yeah.
And doable, which is key. Now, I have to ask about something that's been a constant struggle for me, sleep. I am not a good sleeper, I'll admit it. How much does that really affect our cognitive function?
Oh, sleep is huge, and I think you're not alone in feeling like you're not getting enough. But it's not just about feeling rested, though that's obviously important. During sleep, our brains are hard at work, clearing out toxins, consolidating memories, basically hitting the reset button for the next day.
So it's like a nightly brain detox. I never thought about it that way.
Exactly. And when we don't get enough sleep, those essential processes, they don't happen the way they should. It's like running your computer without ever turning it off. Eventually, it's going to crash.
Okay, that is a terrifying but accurate analogy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are running on fumes these days.
Yeah.
What about stress? That's another biggie, right?
Oh, absolutely. Chronic stress is basically toxic for your brain. It releases all these hormones that can actually damage brain cells and make it harder for your brain to function at its best.
So what can we do about it? I feel like stress is just a fact of life these days.
It's true. It's hard to avoid completely. But finding healthy coping mechanisms is so important. Things like exercise, mindfulness, spending time in nature. These can all help to lower those stress hormones and protect your brain.
It's all about finding that balance, isn't it? Challenging our brains, but also giving them time to rest and recover.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the lifestyle factors that play a role in cognitive health, but this book also dives into specific neurocognitive disorders. And I thought the section on traumatic brain injuries was really eye-opening. I had no idea how common they are.
Right. It's something that often gets overlooked, but even what might seem like a mild concussion can have long-term effects on cognitive function.
So it's not just about those really severe, debilitating injuries.
Exactly. Even a seemingly minor bump to the head can disrupt those delicate neural pathways.
Wow, I'm learning so much today. Okay, so what can we do to protect ourselves? Besides wearing a helmet, of course.
Well, awareness is key. Knowing the signs of a concussion, even if it's not immediately obvious, and seeking medical attention is crucial.
That makes sense. Now, we can't talk about neurocognitive disorders without addressing the elephant in the room, Alzheimer's disease. It's something that I think a lot of people fear as they get older, and for good reason. What did you think of the book's take on Alzheimer's?
It really got me thinking about how much we still don't know, There's so much research to be done, so much we're still learning about this
Which
disease.
is both exciting and a little bit daunting, right? But I guess that's the thing about science. It's always evolving.
Exactly. But one thing that really struck me is how much this book emphasizes the importance of early detection and intervention when it comes to Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it seems like the earlier you can catch it, the better the chances of slowing down the progression.
Absolutely. And it's not just about medication or therapy, lifestyle factors play a huge role too.
So all those things we talked about earlier, diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, those are even more important when it comes to Alzheimer's.
100%. It's like building a fortress around your brain, giving it the best possible chance to fight back.
I like that analogy. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from defining neurocognitive disorders and understanding the causes to exploring ways to protect our cognitive health. What's the biggest takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with?
I think the main message is that we're not powerless. We have more control over our brain health than we often realize, and it's never too early or too late to start making positive changes.
That's a really empowering message, and I think it speaks to the importance of having conversations like this. Knowledge is power, and the more we understand about how our brains work, the better equipped we are to take care of them.
I completely agree. And it's not just about individual responsibility either. It's about advocating for more research, raising awareness, and supporting those who are affected by these disorders.
Absolutely. It's about coming together as a community to prioritize brain health for everyone. Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, I have to say I'm feeling both informed and inspired. We've explored the complexities of the brain, the challenges of neurocognitive disorders, and most importantly, the incredible capacity our brains have for resilience and growth.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners feel the same way. There's so much more to explore, but I think this deep dive has given us a solid foundation to build on.
Definitely. And remember, it's never too early or too late to start prioritizing your brain health. So keep those brains sharp, stay curious, and thanks for joining us on the deep dive.